If you know anything about me, it'll come as no surprise that I love Delver of Secrets. It's my favorite card of all time, and my current channel profile picture is actually the mantis that the wizard fuses with on its art. Aw, look at the little guy. But why is this? Well, today we're going to delve, no pun intended, into a history of Delver of Secrets' run in 3 formats where it has made an impact in the first of a new series on this channel called Magic Memories. Delver, a tale of 3 formats. Delver of Secrets was printed in Innistrad in the fall of 2011. This happens to be the same year that Modern became a format. So when this new one-drop that turns into a 3/2 flyer gets released, a lot of people are thinking, this seems good. Then I assume they saw Snapcaster Mage in the same set and said, no wait, this looks really good. But it would take a little bit for Delver to become the powerful force that it was. While at the beginning of the format, both Preordain and Ponder were legal, unfortunately Delver never got to share the limelight with them, as they were both banned after both cards helped combo decks dominate Pro Tour Philadelphia 2011. One of the most popular Delver builds at the time was Rug Delver. This was before Con, so Teamer wasn't a term yet. Here's an example list that won Grand Prix Turin back in 2012, just a couple of months after it was printed. Just looking at this list, pretty much the definition of a good stuff deck. Tarmogoyf, Vendilion Click, Snapcaster Mage, Cryptic Command, Phyrexian Metamorph, and of course, Delver of Secrets. They even decided that Garruk Relentless was good back then for some reason. Delver lists continued to be some variation of Rug, Red-Blue, or Black-Blue until a certain card was printed in 2014, but we'll discuss that card at the conclusion of this video. So after hearing that Delver never got to enjoy time with Ponder and Preordain in Modern, you may be wondering, what if it did? If you're asking that question, luckily I have an answer for you. Tier 1 and Legacy, pretty much immediately after it was printed. This list took down SCG St. Louis in December of 2011. Funny thing about Legacy is, unlike modern day Modern, tempo decks are actually a big deal. With cards like Force of Will and Daze protecting your creatures or board state, games often make for a more tit-for-tat experience. This is a list from a year later. Hey look, this is actually a Dreadnought deck. This is actually a great example of how most decks utilize Delver. It's a finisher, definitely, but typically it is not your main win condition. For example, here it's obviously Dreadnought that you're trying to get out to close out the game, while Delver is more of a my combo failed and or Dreadnought can't swing for lethal kind of card. This is great, and it's why I love Delver of Secrets so much. Is it powerful? Well, yes, of course. A 3/2 flyer for 1 is still an amazing value creature, but is it fair? I would say it's more than fair. The conditional flip gives your opponent a turn to handle a 1/1, which most decks should be able to, if need be, and typically you won't be able to guarantee a flip on turn 2, as most of the spells that are used to rearrange your library are at sorcery speed. Okay, then why is Delver so good in Legacy? Well, most of the cards that rearrange your top few cards are at sorcery speed, except for Brainstorm. Ancestral Recall Jr. is legal in Legacy, and in addition to Force of Will, it is this card that makes Delver of Secrets so good in the format. Mid-game your board is dead? How does a 3/2 flyer sound? Bam, boom, you're back in the game. Everything was going great, but pretty fair for Delver's first run in Legacy until a certain card was printed. This card was so broken in the format, so incredibly busted, that it was banned and or restricted in 3 formats on the same day. But we'll get there after we talk about Delver's time in this next format. Pauper is Magic's officially sanctioned budget format, allowing only cards printed at common. Look at that. Ponder, Preordain, Brainstorm, and Delver are all common. Pauper took off in the mid-2010s when it became officially supported by Wizards on MTGO when they added daily events and leagues, but in paper, Pauper wasn't supported until 2019. Even in the early days of the format, Delver still found his way in. We have Mono Blue Midrange, that's a Delver deck. You Are a Delver, Delver deck. UB Delver, that's also a Delver deck. Some really creative names here. So what made Delver so good in Pauper? Well, in the early days of the format, Delver decks were practically Legacy Delver Light. We had Daze as your Force of Will replacement, literally 14 counterspells being played in decks. And this was before Gush and Cloud of Fairies were banned, so you even have those two. Without fetch lands, Brainstorm is near useless. What happens if you brainstorm and you get 3 lands? Well, in Pauper, you're stuck drawing them. Worth noting, some decks actually played Evolving Wilds to solve this problem, but it really isn't a great solution, especially in a format format like Pauper, where not having a land on a turn can mean your elf ball opponent is going to use their Priest of Titania to play their entire deck on turn 3. Delver had some powerful friends at common, Cloud of Fairies being pretty intertwined with the deck list at the time. It was such a good value that it was an auto-include in pretty much every Delver deck, and Ninja of the Deep Hours, one of the best creatures in a Delver-style deck with Evasive Flyers. One card would enter the format and cement Delver decks as the king of Pauper. Okay, for real this time, no more beating around the bush. Yes, the card that pushed Delver decks from good to oh my god I hate Delver was Treasure Cruise. If Brainstorm is Ancestral Recall Jr., then the Cruise is Ancestral Recall II. Fittingly enough, Treasure Cruise has the Delve mechanic, real subtle wizards, and auto-include from the moment it was printed. Treasure Cruise is broken. 3 cards for 1 mana is such a good deal that it had to be restricted in Vintage, where you can play a full singleton set of the Power 9 if you please. Want to see my favorite page on Wizards.com? Here it is. January 19th, 2015. Treasure Cruise is banned in Modern, Legacy, and restricted in Vintage. Must be pretty powerful. I wonder what decks. Modern, Blue-Red Delver. Legacy, Blue-Red Delver, and in Vintage, it's probably like, I don't know, Black Lotus Power Stacks Deluxe 3, or it's Blue-Red Delver. To say that Treasure Cruise made Blue-Red Delver a good deck would be an understatement. After fatefully missing spending any time with Ponder, Preordain, and Modern, we finally got to see what it would be like to live in a world where this little one-drop took down an entire format. And Vintage, where decks cost tens of thousands of dollars, a 25-cent common from Innistrad, and an 8-mana draw spell can rise to the top of the format. Now you're probably wondering, if Delver of Secrets is your favorite card, why is your favorite BNR announcement the one where it loses its most valuable piece? Well, the answer is that this BNR proved that Delver is just a great card. It moves with the changing tides. Sometimes it's good, other times it's great. It entered Pioneer? Great, there's a way to make it work. It's in Standard right now. Hey, here's Mono Blue Tempo featuring Delver. Legacy's top deck is still Izzet Delver. And in Penny Dreadful, my favorite budget format, Delver helped me place with the Trickbind Dreadnought deck I brought. Really similar to that Legacy deck we looked at earlier. Treasure Cruise also took Pauper by storm and was banned about 3 months later. Here's a funny response to that. Delver was still a great deck in Pauper even after the banning of Cruise, as Cloud of Fairies and Ninja of the Deep Hours really helped push it to its full potential after the banning. But there's one loose end we still need to tie up. In the Modern format today, where is Delver? Well, while Delver used to be one of the best options for Izzet, in recent years, cards such as Arclight Phoenix, Dragon's Rage Channeler, Murktide Regent, and Bragavan kind of taken the spotlight away from Delver. And bad news bears for fellow boomer Izzet players is, while Delver decks have hypothetically gotten good pieces lately, most notably Counterspell and Force of Negation, DRC, Murktide, and Ragavan especially have left Delver and Snapcaster Mage in the we have Ragavan and Murktide at home category. Well then, what could realistically bring old-style Modern Izzet back to the table? I think that the safest thing Wizards could do if they wanted to bring tempo back to Modern would be unban Preordain and maybe Ponder if they felt like it, but Preordain would be the safest. While it would certainly be put into the current wave of blue-red whatever decks, I think Preordain would give Delver the edge it needs to at least become a tier 2 deck in Modern again. Delver actually got a really solid piece in 2019 with Mystic Sanctuary, but that was too powerful and ended up getting banned in Modern and Pauper. Also worth noting, Dragon's Rage Channeler is basically the new Delver, but I think both could see play in the same deck like they do in Legacy. But hey, that's wishful thinking. I'm Fox Does Magic, and thank you for watching the first installment of Magic Memories. I hope you enjoyed my love letter to my favorite card of all time, and maybe you even have more of an appreciation for one of Magic's greatest designs. After hearing me gush about Delver, are you interested in playing a deck including it? Well, might I recommend Penny Dreadful's Phyrexian Dreadnought Brews. I did a deck tech on last season's version of the deck just recently, and it's still a great and very fun deck. I'll put a link below so you can take a look and hopefully join us in the Penny Dreadful Discord. Thank you for watching, and I hope you win your next game.